As what?
Good morning. Yeah, I have Shanna and Michelle with us, and we're going to talk some more about the VA and some of the issues. Y'all know I'm Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes, and we're loving my veteran. And they have some stories to share about how hard it's been to get the care that they need for their veterans. So Michelle kind of shared part of hers yesterday. Shauna's got her own set of nightmares. So whichever one of y'all want to go first, go ahead.
Go ahead, Shauna. I would love to hear your story too.
Okay, well, backstory. My veteran and I have been together for almost 9 years. During those 9 years, he has tried to get VA care. We were in Montana to start with, so we were at the VA in Helena. They never diagnosed him with a TBI, even though he was in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He was stationed at many different FOBs, which are forward operating bases. For those of you who don't know what a FOB is, yep, he was not a FOBit either. So he was, every night they had mortars coming in. They could time it. They knew when prayer got done, they were going to get hit. So every night they had mortars. He had 3 of them hit close enough to him to have effects of it. And they never diagnosed him with a TBI. And that's just the start of it. When he first went to the VA, the only thing he asked for them for his disability was his back, because 2 weeks prior to deployment, he injured his back on base while active, and he was sent out to go 2 weeks later to Iraq, 50 pounds or more, rucksack on his back. And instead of fixing the problem, of course, because he's in war, cortisone shots, ibuprofen, water, and dry socks. That was
dry socks. Awesome.
Yeah, right. That's the everyday prescription for a soldier, if you're deployed or an airman or anyone, I guess.
Yeah, I really think that the VA, that the military owns like stock in ibuprofen, because that's like their answer to everything.
Well, they prescribed my veteran vitamin D for his PTSD initially. So
that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I have not heard that one. That is a first for me. Oh my goodness.
So, dry socks. Oh.
Right, exactly. Your feet are wet. That's what's wrong with you. You're fine. Just
if I had,
y'all need to hit mute for a second.
Hold on, y'all. Let's pause this for a second. Right. So, like the vitamin D, I think we all need to go to the beach. Okay, that's my answer. Donna, let's back up. Get our veterans. We're going to the beach. Vitamin D therapy. It's going to be in the 70s this week. Yes. Someone's going to finish her story and unmute it. Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Where'd you go, Shauna?
She's talking to her kids.
I am right here. I'm here trying to chase our cat.
Okay.
So he was actually denied his claim with the VA for his back injury, even though it happened during active duty, and they sent him over after 2 weeks after. But they gave him a 10% disability for PTSD.
Right.
So fast forward, I come into life, and we resubmit. We go through. We had to fight tooth and nail to get tinnitus, his hearing loss, on there, and it was interesting because he had it before he was a hard rock miner. Obviously, that's a loud job, and he was a roughneck. That's a loud job, and the VA wouldn't believe the reports from the mining company and the reports from the different oil companies Justin worked for. And so we had to go to 3 separate appointments with outside physicians to prove that he had hearing loss. We also had to fight for him to get his PTSD up, because it was to the point where he couldn't drive. It would anger him. People driving would literally trigger him. He couldn't manage the emotions to get through it. So I took on the role of caregiver. So I was driving along with him, or I would drive him. I was scheduling all of his appointments, and every year for the last 9 years, we ended up in the ER for the same complications with his gut. He will get so dehydrated because he can't keep anything in water. And it just, you know, bowel movements like constantly. I know that's disgusting, but and VA doctors would constantly tell us, nothing's wrong, this is normal. Nothing's wrong, this is normal. So finally, when the choice program was enacted, we started going to the outside VA. They're like, this isn't normal, but we don't know what's going on.
So you were breaking up so bad.
Yeah, just now it's like got really bad.
Sorry. So you're gonna have to go outside.
Oh,
and
that's
freeze.
okay. My service is terrible.
I
I
know.
can try stepping outside too.
I know. I've been to your house.
I know it. That's good.
There's no. I got probably the worst trouble I've ever gotten in with Carl was I was at Shauna's and he sent me a message to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
And like we didn't get any text messages till we got to our front porch. Okay. And so
Oh,
I'm,
no.
trying to message him back and by then the service is dead. And he's like, ah, and I'm like, I'm fine. Okay. We had no signal out there. He goes, well, I've been
Yeah.
Shauna's and I had signal. I'm like, it was clear that day. It was pouring the day I was at Shauna's. There was no signal.
Every time it rains there, it seems like
Yeah,
Like,
we get no signal.
there's like bad signal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tommy, you
anytime
better
we
hope
get
you
rain,
unfreeze because your face is spectacular. That's better.
I'll make weird faces. I do make really weird faces. But it's just been so cool. When we moved to Seattle, Washington, when Justin went to commercial dive school, he went to the VA there because he was having back problems. His back would lock up. It would literally bring him to his knees and he wouldn't be able to move. There was a few times that he couldn't get up off the floor for an hour or two because his back was so locked up and tight. So we went to the VA, and the VA in Seattle finally were able to be like, hey, yeah, you need to go see a physical therapist. You need to go see what's going on with your back. So thank goodness for that. He finally got his back on his stuff. But they also said he had a TBI, and they were surprised that the Montana VA hadn't told him about it or had him have a brain scan. Fast forward 1 year later, after being told this, we still didn't have a scheduled brain scan or any follow-up for the TBI. And okay, so next move, because after a year, we moved to Texas for a dive job that Justin got. We go to the VA in San Antonio, and we are told nothing more about the TBI. None of that was followed up on. And he was having problems with his lungs due to the burn pits. And it's also what's going on with his guts is because of metal toxicity. Well, the VA doctor there, he's the only primary care doctor that we've had who was like, look, I'm not going to prescribe you any medications because your use of cannabis is literally doing a better job than any of our medications could do. And that is after the VA and Helena had prescribed him medications that literally put him in the ER because he was dying because his liver was shutting down.
Oh my
They
God.
had him on Stone and sertraline and one other drug that completely negatively interacted with each other. And I almost lost my husband. And
Wow.
so in February 25th, 2018, when we were living in outside of Corpus Christi, Texas, Justin was working a job. He was out. He was on the barge. Luckily, he wasn't in the water because he would have died. He felt like he was having a heart attack. They rushed him to the ER, and it was a private ER. They wouldn't even take him to the public ER, who doesn't accept anything with veterans. And his heart rate was 181 over 103 when I got there with the kids. Not normal heart rate. They're like, nothing's wrong with you. Your heart is fine. Your lungs are fine. Like, look, we need to get him to a VA. This isn't okay. And they're like, no, I'm sorry. Because San Antonio was 3 hours away. So we had to sit and wait. Justin lost his job. He couldn't dive anymore. which was his passion and the only thing that he had found since getting out of the military that fulfilled the void that the military had given him. We lost his job. We had to move back to Montana to be closer to family. And it took 1 year and 1 day for the VA and the outside specialists to give him a diagnosis, but it wasn't a diagnosis, that his lungs are fine, that there's literally nothing wrong with their lungs. But the doctor, the outside physician, was like, I know this isn't normal, but I can't do any more unless the VA allows me to do a lung biopsy. And the VA wouldn't allow it.
Wow.
But he was cleared to go back to diving. And so we left Montana because we were so tired of the horrible care and the neglect from the VA there. Okay, so now we're down here in Florida, in Georgia, where we are now. My husband works in Florida and we live in Georgia. We're 30 minutes from there. It's weird. Anyway, since April, he got down here at the end of March. When I got down here in April, we have been trying to get into the VA. But due to them having to limit their capacity to 25% of their normal amount, we have been denied care in Jacksonville, in St. Mary's, and everywhere around us that is close to us. And the closest place that we can go to for a VA hospital is 2.5 hours away in Gainesville, Florida. My husband's company does not give him paid time off. My husband's company does not allow sick leave. My husband's company, he had to leave the one that we started with because of other nefarious reasons, which that's not for this to talk about, but we can't afford to take 3 days off of work, pay for a hotel room, pay for the gas, pay for the food, because we have 3 kids. It's not like we have a babysitter. So we have to take all of them with him. He won't go to the VA because it triggers him so bad that he wants to kill himself every time he steps in the door. And it got to the point, even in Montana, I wasn't even allowed to go back in the ER with him when they would have to rush him back during all these episodes due to privacy issues because they were too lazy to put up real walls. And now, this last Saturday, my husband and I were sitting there at 9 o'clock at night watching a movie, and he grabs my hand, puts it on his chest, he said, "Feel my heart." And there was nothing. There was nothing. And it scared him, and it scared me. And then he got this sinus infection about 1.5 months ago, same time I had one. And his lungs are still wheezing. He can't breathe. He can't move his right shoulder anymore because of repetitive motion from, he carried the big gun. He was the saw carrier. So he was the big dude in the route. So he got to hold the biggest gun. So of course he has shoulder injuries. His back is so bad that I have to give him a deep tissue massage every single night for him to be able to wake up and walk the next day. And we still have no diagnosis of TBI, which we know an undiagnosed TBI causes sleep apnea, which causes your heart to fail. It is the slowest, most painful way to die. And now we've been going on with this for we don't know how long. We haven't had anyone care enough at the VA at state levels. And there's such a disconnect from the federal VA to the state, because the federal VA doesn't actually run the states. The states all run themselves. And I didn't realize that. A lot of us don't realize that. And the disconnect is so insanely sad because it's not just my husband. You can look at so many warfighters everywhere. There's Chris Pronto, there's Boone Cutler, I could go on with a list of major people that everyone knows the names of. But that's the problem. It's all the little guys that no one knows what's going on. They don't care. And the people at the VA at the state levels, they don't care. You walk into the door and you have a problem, they really don't care. There's such a disconnect. It's a government job. And part of the other problem, like Bay Pines, Florida, has the worst VA in the United States. One of them, because Dublin's pretty great too. But this security officer at the VA there intimidated, pushed, and threatened a veteran because the veteran said enough was enough. And instead of fired, he got relocated to a different location because at the state level VAs, they cannot fire people. So I yesterday actually had to reach out to the people that I know who are at the forefront of these warfighter communities because I didn't know where else to turn. And it's so sad. And for us caregivers, it's heartbreaking because I'm literally watching my husband die in front of me. My kids are watching their dad dying in front of him, and they don't care. And the fact that COVID is not really that bad, and we all had it last year in December, our whole family did, it's affecting not only the mental health of our veterans, and I can say that too, because I have spoken to so many caregivers who are like, I don't know what to do. This year, my veteran has gone off the Richter scale on PTSD and triggers. And enough is enough. I am tired of watching our people who have volunteered their lives be treated like the scum of the earth. Yet we're supposed to treat illegal people with more respect. We're supposed to treat people who don't care about our country with more respect. In our family, that's not how it works. And it's to the point where I'm 31 years old, and to get health care for my family and to get health care for my husband, since the VA has failed so much, I'm enlisting into the Air Force so I can get coverage for my family that they deserve. That's not how it should be. I'm doing it because I want to, but that is one of my motivating factors, is because I'm sick of it.
And the sad thing is that, y'all, Shauna lives, for those of you who don't know, Shauna lives 30 minutes from me, and somehow God blessed us to put us all in the same place. Her husband is amazing. Justin is amazing, and he would do anything for you. And they have three of the most adorable children that live with them. And he has two older children. And those kids love their dad. When we were down there one day and Justin pulled in, and they just run and they adore their dad. And you get somebody like Shanna who fights for all veterans' rights. But what makes me sick, and where I think about, is what about these veterans who don't have strong lives and don't have advocates who say that things are really wrong, and they take things at face value? And I can't wait for Michelle to share her story, but I have a story that's very true and dear to my heart, and I'm taking my glasses off because I'm going to cry and it's just going to get worse as we go.
I know. That's what I'm doing too.
I know, right? And I'm sharing this story with his permission. He's very aware that I'm doing this, but James is a friend of my son's. I've known James since he was probably in 6th grade. In fact, yesterday he posted a picture of him and his wife at their middle school prom together. So they have been sweethearts since middle school. He graduated with my son. I am very, very dear friends with his mother. And James enlisted. James was very young and went overseas. And he was in Iraq. And he was at a base there, actually, and they played soccer with the kids. And I know part of you've heard this story, but not all of it. They played soccer with the neighbor kids, and one day the neighbor kid didn't get a soccer ball, he brought a bomb. And there's a safe line that nobody can cross. Well, this kid crossed the safe line. And so the choice James had to make was, they knew, take that risk or shoot the child. So they didn't. And James did his job. And he was awarded a medal for it. And they put a medal on his chest and said, "Good job, you killed a 7-year-old. We're proud of you." And it was many years later that James and his wife had a son, Nicholas, and they were playing soccer. And that night, James was sitting there with a gun to his head because he realized all of a sudden that he took somebody else's 7-year-old. So his mom calls me, and I was at work, and y'all know I'm a paramedic, and said, "Stacy, James is trying to kill himself. Are you working, and can you come get him because he'll listen to you?" So I go and I get James, and we're riding, and he tells me a story, and I explain to them, and that's something we'll go into way more depth about what happens in the psych holes, and people don't understand that, so we'll get that done. But anyway, long story short, long story shorter, James got his immediate crisis stabilization, got on medication, had more kids, was, he still struggles like every veteran with PTSD. And he was at work in Brunswick, Georgia, and he does outside sales stuff. And he was having a moment, and he knew, he's like, I'm going to do something dumb. He went and drove to the VA clinic in Brunswick, Georgia. Right? I mean, you're a veteran. That's where you're supposed to go. When you need help, come to the clinic. So he gets there, and they tell him, "I'm sorry, we're full. We're busy today. This is a veteran who is in crisis and thinking about killing himself." We live in Southeast Georgia. Okay, everybody in Southeast Georgia carries a shotgun in their vehicle because we hunt. Okay, it's just something we do. So he had one in his car, and they said, "You need to go over to St. Simon's by the Sea." It's about a 30-minute ride, 40-minute ride in traffic. So here's a suicidal guy who is told to drive yourself to the place we contract with. He drives over there, walks in, tells them his story. So the VA sent me. They immediately put him in a room, in a holding room, and say, "We don't have anybody for you. We don't have a bed. We don't have this. We're sorry. We're going to send you to the State Mental Hospital in Savannah, Georgia." I've been to there. It is not a good place at all. So rather than get decent transportation, they call the sheriff's office, who walk in, put James, handcuffs, waist chains, leg irons, throw him in the back of the police car. PTSD guy now, okay, understand this, drove him to the State Mental Hospital, where he was given drugs that he didn't want, and was told, "You will stay on them for 6 months, and we're going to test therapeutic levels. And if you don't stay on them 6 months, we're going to put you in jail because you've endangered." This is a veteran, a young boy who made a decision to shoot a child to save an entire base there. Okay? And what do we do with him? We put him in a police car. And they were at their wits' end, and he went to the Dublin VA for help, and he went to the Dublin VA for care later after this. And we actually lived outside of Dublin at the time, and so his wife and kids came up and stayed with us so they could be closer to him. And they looked at him and said, "Well, we're not really sure you have a whole lot of PTSD going on, and you should be able to handle this at home. Goodbye." And sent him home with his wife. And that's the struggle. And his wife, God love her, is young, and she didn't know to fight and scream and holler and yell. And then you got Mama Bear Stacy coming up there going, "This is not acceptable. We have to do something." But they put this child in the State Mental Hospital. And I've been there, okay? It's all concrete. It is horrible. It is truly people with severe mental illnesses. And they're like rocking and beating their heads into the wall and screaming, and they don't specialize in PTSD. And that's where they put him that time. And you made him a criminal. So now we can't understand why we're having 22 plus veterans a day kill themselves. And remember, those are only the ones that are being reported. Those aren't the ones that are homeless on the street that are dying of a drug overdose because they don't get any care. Okay, that's only what's reported to the VA. That's it. When you've separated from your family and you're the homeless guy on the street and you don't have an ID anymore, they don't realize you're a veteran and you get buried in some pauper's grave somewhere, because it does happen. I mean, the people and you're John Doe 2532, And they're veterans who are dying that way too, because they're treated like they don't matter. And nobody's reporting it. So you wonder where the 22 a day come from? The 22 a day came from the guy who went to go get help, and they put him in handcuffs and put him in a police car. And when, not only did they take his shotgun, they took every gun out of the house, every hunting thing, including his grandfather's gun. And you have veterans like Justin, Carl, who believe we have the right to defend our home because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, I'm not even talking about the politics. We saw what happened in Portland and everywhere else, all over the news. And it goes back to the pictures that I took, the 4 photos that I posted a long time ago. One was in Iraq, one was in Afghanistan, one was in Portland, and the other one was in Minneapolis, I think. Right? Where was it?
Mhm.
And all of our veterans, none of them could tell us which pictures were taken.
That's pretty bad.
So yeah, they want to protect us. They never get out of that mode of protection. They never unenlist. They may have a piece of paper that says that, but their brain doesn't unenlist. And you just took away everything he has to protect his family. No wonder you put it this. And that's why they're not going to get help, because they don't want psych on their medical records. Because if they get it, it's immediately going to pop up in some database that they can't purchase a firearm. And they have other things they can. They're employers who will not employ veterans because they have PTSD and they think they're going to be postal and blow up things. So we have a problem, and the system is designed to help at the federal level. When we talk to, and Sean and I are in a blessed place because we talk to higher what the whole federal plan is. I'm telling you, what the federal plan has is amazing. What the states are implementing sucks.
Yep.
Right.
Like,
And Michelle's story is equally as horrifying. Your turn, Michelle.
It's been about seven, 8 weeks, roughly, a couple months. My veteran's PTSD kind of got a little bigger than him, and he became suicidal. This was my first time navigating this with him, and my first experience with the VA going through that. So basically what we did, he came to me and reached out. I'm so blessed that he did, thank God. And I took him to the VA up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we're in Loveland, Colorado. Cheyenne's roughly, I don't know, it's like an hour from here. Took him up there to the emergency room. They did your standard, posted the guard outside the door, that kind of thing. Talked through things, did some medicine, had some doctors come in and talk to him, and they decided that they wanted to put him on an aircraft and fly him to Sheridan, Wyoming, to the VA for inpatient treatment. First of all, he was a flight engineer. So as you can imagine, aircraft is one of his biggest triggers. Not going to happen, not putting him on a plane. Obviously, what was that going to do for his PTSD, right? Particularly in the middle of a suicidal break, right? So we adamantly, I spoke up. First of all, I'm like, oh, hell no, that is not happening. He's not getting on a plane. That's one of his triggers. They said, well, we really don't know what we can do for there. And he also spoke up too and said he would not get on a plane. So he was able to.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second, because I think this is key.
Yes.
The reason Michelle was allowed back there is because Damon has physical from his MS, and she is his caregiver. So because of his physical limitations, they allowed Michelle back there. Had he not have had the physical limitations, she would not have been there to be the advocate in the room. Because I think that is key in this story.
Yeah.
Even though you had what happened to you, you still were able to be there as an advocate, where now we don't have that problem. I mean, people aren't allowed to do that. Sorry, go ahead. I just thought that was a key factor.
No, and it's sad. You're so right. We were talking about those veterans that don't have someone advocating for them, and when they can't speak, that we have to have someone be their voice. Because had they stuck him on that plane, obviously that wouldn't have helped him. We don't even want to think about what have gone in that regard. But, and not to mention the fact he's had numerous issues at the Gillette VA in Wyoming and the Sheridan VA. So yeah, I don't even want to go back there. So what was very interesting is the ER doctor then came to talk to us after we had exhausted those two options, which weren't happening. And he basically told us that because he had a strong support system, that they would go ahead and send him home with me and with a care plan. And the care plan consisted of, you know, the hotline number and just go back to the ER, you know, if he's still suicidal, you know, by the time you get home. What the heck kind of advice is that? Seriously. I mean, really. So I bring him home, and mind you, this is my first experience walking through this. So this was new to me as well. So I get him home, and he's obviously no better. Get him some rest and proceed to take him to a hospital about 1.5 miles from our home, and just a local hospital here, very good hospital. And got him in there. He, once again, it was like
No,
the
hang
rinse
on.
and repeat.
I'm going to
Sure.
let him finish your story because
Okay, gotcha. It was just a rinse and repeat kind of thing at this hospital. He had to go through the same questions, the same, you know, it makes them, they're in this place and they're suicidal and they have to question them and go over and over these things. It's horrible to watch. So in that hospital there, they did some evaluations, and I was able to talk to Stacy because she kind of knows how the med boards work. You know, it's scary to think of some of the facilities that they send them to, because some, as you know, aren't the greatest, and some are better than others too. And we got him in the facility here, thank goodness, that he needed, that was also close to our home. He was in there about 5 days. And after that 5 days, they said, because he had a strong support system, that they were going to send him home with me. They sent him home with a gamut of medications to have me titrate and get him to the therapeutic level over the period of the next 6 weeks. So I am sent home. He had a seizure while there also. So I'm sent home seizure medications, antipsychotics, blood pressure medication that will lower his anxiety. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I also have to watch for the severe side effects that some of these meds can have. I mean, can you imagine like being a caretaker and not knowing or having background, you know, it's like you get an instant education in medicine and stuff. And thank goodness we do a lot of research and educate ourselves anyway. But I can't even imagine the veteran without the advocate. But nonetheless, they send us home, and I've got him up to the therapeutic level on those medications. And he's in an intensive outpatient program. Every week, he's got some hardcore therapy with groups and his counselor. I'm now sitting in with those meetings with him, just to help him go through that. And he asked me to do that. So I think he's more comfortable with that. We're doing cognitive processing therapy right now. And as Stacy mentioned, you know, some of the VA's programs are wonderful. It's just that disconnect. But we had to wait roughly, I don't know, 5 weeks after they sent him home to get any counseling. So we're here dealing with this alone, he and I both, trying to just navigate it together. And here we are. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been very, very hard. Scary thing.
it isn't. And I think that, you know, you and I had, for those of y'all who don't know, Shanna and Michelle and I are friends, so we have to kind of put that out there. But when this kind of started, well, thank you, Shanna. When this kind of started for her, you know, she would message me and call me because she knew I had at least the medical background in dealing with what happened. I think first of all, the thing that everybody fails to understand is, yeah, the beds. The beds were,
yes.
Because what happens is every state, and I can just tell you what it's called in Georgia, but every state, every day, the mental health facilities that do crisis intervention, and this is a key factor here, when they go in asking for help in a suicidal state, they are sent to what they call crisis intervention. Each state allows, and I pulled that up, there are individual laws, but all 50 states have approximately a 72-hour, what they call a forcible cycle. So if you're a danger to yourself or others, and it depends on your state regulations. I know in Georgia, we're blessed because in Georgia, we can let a licensed clinical social worker can determine that.
Wow.
And a physician can also do that. In some states, it requires a judge to do that, so it requires a little longer. But if they feel they're a danger to themselves or others, they can put them on a psych hold. And for in Georgia, it's called a 1013. I know in Florida, it's the Baker Act. So that just depends on what their psych hold is called. So what happens at that point is that when you're in that emergency place, they find beds, and they're all reported every day. The state of Georgia does it every day. Through GCAL, they're all sent to a state where everybody in the state can access. So they look at how many of these mental health beds they have available, and then you have to literally, as the hospital, you have to literally call every single facility and send over their whatever you're seeing with them and their medical insurance and all this stuff. So what you're getting at this point is, depending on what your Medicare, what your insurance is paying, is going to determine which bed they
Yeah.
get into a facility.
Yep.
So, and let's be honest, Medicare and the VA don't pay as well as Blue Cross Blue Shield or Anthem or Aetna. So which beds do you think better facilities are going to get the Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Aetna patients and those, and the VA goes down the list? Well, so that's where you have to go for a bed. Well, we happen to know where Michelle wanted Damon to go. So we knew when the beds were going to become available, and that's how come we kind of timed it out. But to get her in there through the bed board. And it sucks because what happens like in Georgia, Shauna and I live in the furthest southeast corner of Georgia there is. Okay. So let's say that my veteran or that Carl or Justin got to that point and we took them to the ER, and now they're like, okay, they need to go somewhere. All right. First of all, we have a double-edged sword because our VA is Gainesville, Florida. Even for me, it's Gainesville, Florida.
Yeah.
And then we're in the state of Georgia. So you have a cross, which is like Michelle has with the Wyoming, Colorado thing.
Mm-hmm.
The VA is going to send us to a facility in Florida. So let's say that we go to the local ER for both of us would probably, be Brunswick, Charlton County, whatever, or Camden County. We go there. They now are sitting here. And because we go through the Gainesville VA, they could end up in a facility in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
They could end up in a facility if they're going from the Georgia bed board all the way on the northeast side of Atlanta, northern thing, which could be 6 hours away, depending on where they have a bed.
Right.
And that's the reality that all of us face when it comes to how the mental health side works. So, the frustration is there. And what I don't understand, and I know I said this morning on Let's Talk, is I get the fact that the VA, and the VA is not doing this. So let me make this very clear. The CDC has said you can only see all medical facilities countrywide due to COVID have to reduce their number of face-to-face to 25%. Okay, that is
What happens to all the rest?
They have to telemed or whatever. That is a CDC guideline. Okay, so that's what's happening. So if you've got to reduce your number to 25%, but when you take these veterans, and one of our girls, Kimberly, I'm telling you, I think I've said her story. He was drinking. He had been sober, had a moment, started drinking because he couldn't get in with his therapist. Started drinking, went and did drugs and drinking, threatened suicide. They called her PD called her to come. He called her, and then PD was involved. She got to come get him, same thing, to take him to the VA. He goes into the VA and says, look, I have an addiction problem. I need help today. And they said, well, how often do you drink? The 5,000 questions. And they're like, oh, we don't think you drink enough and do drugs enough to warrant inpatient care. So you can go home and we'll get a care plan. And again, 8 weeks down the road, we'll get you a counselor. And where is he at now? He has left, still drinking, still binging. And she is going bar to bar, alley to alley, looking for her husband.
Wow.
So when he dies, because, and I'm not saying he's going to, but when he's one of those statistics that has lost his wallet, done whatever, and now he's a John Doe in the system, he's not going to be reported in his 22 a day.
God. Yeah.
And she's the advocate. And so what happens where these spouses aren't, or they're alone and they live alone? Because we already know it's, well, people with PTSD and veterans and military are already without the PTSD, are already 30 times more likely to get a divorce and have a broken relationship than the general public.
Yep.
So where are those people falling? I think that we all have
Oh.
our horror stories, but for me, it's where are the people who are falling through the cracks? Where are the people that don't have the Shannas? Where are the people that don't have the Michelle? You know, it's hard that Shanna's watching Justin die before her eyes. I get it.
Mhm.
It's hard that Michelle couldn't sleep at night because she's worried about everything. That she can't go to Walmart because she's
Mhm.
worried about what's going to happen because they still say he's red flag or high risk. And she can't go to Walmart. She's going to have a grandbaby born in a few weeks. What if she wants to go see that grandbaby? What are you going to do? Because he's still considered red flag?
Mhm.
Look at that little behind you. I said she's so precious. You know I love that baby. I could eat her up.
So cute.
We don't have those people. We don't have those people. Those people don't have us. They don't have our advocates. And the disconnect is here, and we have to fix. The only way we're never going to fix the disconnect. You can't fix, and I really believe this. I believe after talking to the people that do the federal VA program, that if they knew this is what was going on a regular basis, something would get enacted. But it's not going to get enacted until our congressmen and senators decide that it is important. And remember what I said earlier. These are the people who signed up to protect you so you could have that right to run for office and make some rules and govern their money and do whatever and deny them care. And you're riding around in the Jaguar, and Shauna's husband can't take 3 days off from work to go get treatment that he needs. And besides that, we don't even know if he'll get it in 3 days at the big. They could do one day and 1 6 months from now and 1 2 years from now. You know, so where's all that coming in?
It's got to change. It's a process. It's going to take time, but we can be the catalyst for that change.
Yeah, we can. And we have, look at the face she is making. I mean, you better smile. You better smile because you know I love it. Hey, I had to feed your chickens today, sister. She feeds the chickens at my house. She likes. But you know, where are the catalysts at? I mean, something's got to change, and until we flood everything, I mean, social media, websites, news outlets, whatever we have, and say enough is enough. Because, like I told y'all, I have visions of this. I promised y'all I'm not dressing up like a vagina marching through the streets of DC. Okay, I promise that.
I'm going to be there with you because this is ridiculous. Well, and it's really sad. So we had the opportunity to interview Rosie Torres, who is the founder of Burn Pits 360, who is the nonprofit who's been trying to get legislation through for airborne and burn pit toxic fumes for our veterans who have been there. And we have senators out there who are still denying that anything ever happened. They're still denying and saying we need more research. We need more research. Well, guess what? When Obama was in office, he pulled that research. He cut the funding for the research for burn pits, and it was him. He literally wrote it through, because I remember that, because that was also the year that he got rid of the oil field, and that's what our livelihood was. It was a horrible year. We do not need more research. They have been doing nothing nonstop but fighting for the rights for our veterans. And it's constant pushback from these senators, from the Congress, and it needs to end. They need to be held accountable. They need to show up at their doorsteps. They need to see that we are done with their crap. We're done putting up with them. And we are the American people. We elected them. They do not get to decide the final freaking answer for every fucking thing in this world. I've had it. It is crap. I am, obviously you can tell I'm pissed about it, because I am watching multiple people including my husband, suffering daily, and it's only getting worse. We have men and women who are in their 20s and 30s dying of cancer that they
Yep.
should not have because of metal toxicity and airborne metals that were in Desert Storm, OEF,
Mhm.
all of it. It needs to end, and the accountability needs to happen. So what do we do, and how do we show up? Have to go parade through DC. If we have to show up as a major force and fight for this, we're prepared. We
Yeah.
are
Going
prepared.
to.
They don't understand how prepared stuff we are, especially in 2020. Our
Yes.
veteran community is done. They have had it. We
Yep.
are 1.1 million. There are 1.1 million service members in this country. Behind them, there are 5.5 million caregivers. We have the force, we have the opportunity, and guess what? They all know how to fight.
Yep.
You really want to piss off the one population in this country who literally sign their lives up to bleed, to die, to lose their friends, to lose their family, to have their rights trampled on, to be treated like criminals, to be treated like they don't matter. It's enough is enough, and it needs to end.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it does, and I'm over it, and I watch it so much, and you know, I know that y'all are seeing it from what you see. How do you
Yeah.
think I saw it every day for 15 years on the EMS side, being in those facilities?
Yeah.
And when you're in a room, and I'm not calling that particular VA out at this moment because that's a whole nother topic, but when you're in a room in an old facility and you know that the pipes are wrapped in asbestos wrapping and they're there, and there's a whole nother subject that is my next year platform, the fact that we can cover up water that we knew was contaminated since 1972, and you
Yep.
make me drink it. You made me drink that polluted water. You caused me to lose my babies, and you caused me to have an autoimmune disorder that's going to kill me. Let me tell you, you have pissed off the wrong cow.
Yep.
And there's a lot of us who are done. I love this country. My granddaddy was one of the very first Air Force people there were. Yes, we do. My granddaddy was one of, when it became the Air Force, he was it. He was that person. I love this country. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, and my brother all build aircraft carriers, and they've done it for a living, and we are proud of that heritage. We're proud of that. That's what we're proud of. I remember doing a parade right after Desert Storm started. It was the 4th of July parade in Alameda, California, and we invited the Vietnam veterans to march. And those grown men, after it was over, cried to me and said, "It's the first time since we've been back that somebody cheered for us.
Mhm.
How dare we not support our veterans? I'm over it. What you went through and are going through with Damon is ridiculous." And you
It
know,
is.
the whole other number that's not even talked about is the caregiver who are taking their own lives because they fight these same battles and they're tired
Yes.
and they can't watch anymore and they can't deal with it anymore, and they too are ending it. And that,
And we need to be there.
We have an episode.
you have
We have an episode coming out January 6th. Of course I am. Is that better?
Yes, January 6th.
But we have an episode, January 6th, we interviewed an active duty soldier who his wife took her life due to the strenuous and anxiety-filled and difficult road that caregivers take, and they have a 1-year-old.
Mhm.
He found her in their bed after she pulled the trigger because it was so hard for her. She reached out for help and it didn't help because telehealth really doesn't do that shit.
Nope.
Well, the problem with telehealth is, we are tending to become a stronger community because we are becoming very familiar with each other. So we're opening up a whole lot more because we see each other and we talk to each other by way of Zoom or whatever, and we are becoming that community. But when you telehealth and it's like dial a meal, like, oh, which therapist do I get today? Oh, your call's coming in next, so you'll get the next one in line. Please wait for the next available therapist. Your approximate wait time is 25 minutes. I mean, they don't even know who they're going to get. For God's sakes, do you have to build
Well, especially with
trust?
veterans. Yeah. Well, veterans already go through that just to schedule an appointment with the VA or to talk to someone with the VA. They don't want to sit on the phone and have to do it to get health coverage. They don't want to have to sit there and be like, oh, great, I'm going to go through this process again. Like, let's wait on the phone. Justin and I used to bet on how long we would be on hold with the VA. And it is like that with telehealth. And I've actually spoke with a few people who have said, hey, this telehealth counseling stuff, it's not working for me. It's such a disconnect. They don't understand me.
I'm watching.
How can you
take the 25% and let the guy with the follow-up care for whatever that can be telehealthed out. Let them be telehealthed out.
Yeah.
And use the 25% for the critical stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, I have a retired chief warrant officer who just sent me his stuff. Started in January with a sinus infection and tried to get clear for surgery. Here we are in December. He had an abnormal EKG, then they did an abnormal echo, then he's had an abnormal stress test, and this has all been spread out since January. He still does not have an appointment for a cardiac cath, and this is a cardiac issue. And you don't think it's urgent? I worked in healthcare a long time. I assure you, if you have an abnormal EKG, an abnormal stress, and an abnormal echo, you're going to be in the cath lab within 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened with my dad when we found out with him. He had a triple bypass immediately because of that. But it doesn't happen like that on the VA side. And I don't think the civilian world honestly understands at all.
Take an ibuprofen and put some dry socks on and wait your turn. Yeah.
Vitamin D, ibuprofen, and dry socks. You're good to go.
Exactly. Woo!
And the sad part is,
maybe I should bring it.
Look, take your ibuprofen, your dry socks, and go to the beach. Get your vitamin D.
There you go.
It's sad that we laugh this way because we have to, or we're gonna cry.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta laugh at it.
And we can't.
You have to find the humor, and you have to be able to joke.
You do,
because it can be so depressing, and people wonder why veterans have such a dark sense of humor, and then you sit there and they wonder why the caregivers have such a dark sense of humor. I laugh at things I probably shouldn't. Like, my family thinks that I'm insane at some of the stuff that I laugh at when we get around our family who isn't like a part of the military community. Like, they don't understand at all.
Yeah, well, add the paramedic who's got the dark side of humor to the whole family mix, and we all special. I mean, Justin was firefighter, so he gets it, but you get that sense of humor that's like horrifically dark. Well, ladies, it has been, Shanna, it's been amazing, and I'm going to download this now. Shanna, I will email you the recording so you can do with it what you want. But I'm going to get it real quick, and it takes a minute to download, and we'll put it on, obviously, the YouTube channel. Again, we'll get this out there. It's horrible, and it's going to take everybody coming together and saying we've had enough. So again, I can just encourage people, email me your stories. Shanna, if you'll just put that out there, we need those stories emailed to lovingmyveteran@gmail.com. I do have the time next week to sit down with the senator I need.
Yay!
And I can't go and say, this is what we've heard. I need it in writing.
Yeah.
I want to walk in with the stack of it. I don't care how much copier paper and ink I got to buy. Budget, but I don't care how much we got to buy. I'm going to drop it in somebody's lap and say, read this. This doesn't go away. This is real.
We're not going away.
We're not leaving.
Our
You're
voice
not
going to get louder. If they keep ignoring us, and if they keep pushing us to the side, they're not going to like what happens.
No, they're not.
And the veterans are so done. Our veterans are just done.
Yeah.
And
And we're right there beside them.
they're like Wi-Fi. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna walk around with my veteran mom and say, "You see this face? He protected your right and gave you the right to ride the Jaguar, and you've done pissed me off because you're hurting him."
Yep.
Okay, I'm done. Because
Yep.
you think about it, if we decide we're all going to DC and they're not going with us, can you imagine the PTSD that they're going to have before we decide to go to DC? Our bitch switch will have flipped to wide open. It's going to be something, but I'm done. And I think we're
Yeah.
all done. But it's time we become the voice.
Yes.
You don't want like minds together, because when like minds come together, things happen.
Mhm.
And I go way back to where this country was founded, when it was the colony of Virginia and the colony of North Carolina and the colony of New York. Nothing got done. But when they came together and became a continental congress, things got done, as like-minded people joined together. And you've got a bunch of uneducated, underfunded, under whatever, grassroots people who fought a war against a very expensive British army to say we need what we deserve and what's right for us.
Yeah.
They managed to do that. You know, we have ways to communicate. We need to utilize them. We have Zoom and we have outlets and we have our things. And you can't stop us from being together. Mark might try it on Facebook, but you can't stop us from becoming together. We're going to continue to communicate. And we're going to join our forces. And we're going to speak up for these people, because the way you're treating them is wrong.
It is. It's got to stop.
You can't, you know, COVID may say 6 people can't join together, but it didn't say squat about how many people I can put on my Zoom. I have a pro account. I can put 100 of you on here at the same time. I spend my $14.99, so we can put 100 of us on here, and we got 20 people with their pro account. We'll have 2,000 on there. And you think we won't have 2,000? We'll have laptops split out everywhere and say these are our voices. They do it on the voice, by the way. I'm gonna learn that technology where there's
there you go.
Voice. If you watch The Voice this year, the audience is all like done in on Zoom, and so there are all these pictures of them watching it live from their home. It's cool. So if they can do it on The Voice, we'll figure out how to do it here. And we get a big screen somewhere. Yeah, we got anything in Times Square. I don't care. We'll start making our recordings. Y'all, thank you again. It's been
we'll start our nice big market up north though, here in Georgia.
There you go.
Exactly. We just, hey, look, if I go to DC, can I go when it's snowing, or can we go at Cherry Blossom time? Because I love the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Me too. Cherry Blossom Festival.
I go all the time. All right, y'all, let me pause this for us. Y'all, thank you again. We appreciate you.
Okay.